Hey, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Shay Douglas from the EHTV video platform, and today I'm with Thiago and Yossi from Syntropic Solutions. We've been getting together every week to discuss all things Syntropy, where it came from, what it even means, how to implement systems, successful design systems that are thriving and abundant and in place. We've got this amazing evidence and examples of these systems thriving even in ecosystems you wouldn't think plants would even grow, such as the desert. These guys have shared a bit of their experience in the many years that they've been implementing these systems all across the world. And it's really exciting because this week we're going to discuss and just touch on what it takes for you and what you need to know before you even think about designing a syntropic system in your own home. This is something that everyone must know before we really start to see a system develop and thrive and come into its full abundance. So we're going to cover some topics like, what's necessary in terms of the context for farmers. We're going to look at some of the natural laws that, that were guided by part of these principles and understandings of syntropy, and then look further around design implementation, as well as the management and maintenance that's required for a system to have its regenerative purposes over a long period of time. So thanks so much again for joining me, Thiago and Yossi. It's so good to connect on these calls. I just wanted to give a shout out to the people who are watching this right now. I really appreciate you guys tuning in for this conversation. It seems more potent and more valuable and more relevant than ever before, growing your own food. There's so much happening in the world right now, yet we can all take action on knowing where our food comes from, growing organic, having really valuable, delicious, scrumptious, low air mile food right at our doorstep. And that would be a wonderful solution, sovereign solution that we can all work towards and say, 5 years time, the worst thing that will happen if you start growing your own food, well, you've got plenty of food to eat for your family and your friends. So it's all really good stuff. And I just wanted to thank you guys for tuning in. If you like this video, please share it with your friends. If you have any questions, leave a comment, and we generally respond within the next couple of days. Just write them down in the questions. And if you're interested to know more, you want to dive deeper into this area, in the description, you'll see a link to the mentorship program coming up where you get to work one-on-one with Thiago and Yossi and design your own system and learn so much more, because there's so much information, education, and empowerment that comes with practicing and implementing systems, which these guys have an abundance of knowledge and experience they want to share with you. So get involved in the mentorship. You get great value, and it's really worthy cause. But today, let's just jump straight into it. Maybe Yossi or Thiago, you want to introduce and just mention, what is relevant and necessary for people to know before they even start a system like this.
Maybe I can start. Basically, it's a lot of people think, I get these questions a lot. Is that only possible in the tropics? Actually, is that only possible in the tropics? Is that only possible in the subtropics? Is that for large-scale farmers? Is that for a backyard, hobby farm? Is that for veggie garden? I would say, as a person who decides to interact with nature, could be a large-scale farmer or someone who wants to reforest an area or restore an ecosystem, or someone who just wants to play on their backyard and plant enough food for their family and the community. So first of all, we need to understand the context that you are in. What is the climate that you live in? What are the plants that grows in that area? What are your resources? What's the time that you have to spend? What is the conditions that you have in terms of rainfall yearly? Also, have you got access to water or not? What is the condition of your soil? So that's like what we call the context. Based on that, you can always following what we call the syntropic principles and the natural laws. What do I mean about syntropic principles or natural laws? It's something that's it's beyond our control. It's some laws and principles that it it guides this planet and possibly this universe. That for us, what is left is to be humble enough and understand these principles and laws. That, in my understanding, is the energy accumulation for for a system to be able to thrive could be, especially if you're talking about food production system, that we need to take fruits or food out of it. So we need to understand what is the process of energy accumulation through water and nutrients. We need to think about our function in the system. If there is principles and laws that every living being is part of it, what is our function as humans? How can we interact with this system and do good or be at good for the system as a whole, and also grow our food and restore the area that we are growing. So what can we do so our actions or interactions can have a positive impact? And then, talking about the design and implementation, what would be the plants material that you have available in your area? What would be your markets? Are you selling it, or are you just growing for yourself? Are you doing that for land restoration? What would be your harvesting plan? Do you want to have food harvested every week or every day? And what is the total area that you want to implement? Do you want to implement it all at once? Do you want to implement it in parts? And by understanding all these contexts, and then comes the understanding of how to manage it and how to maintain it, understanding how to apply the principles in your personal context. And yeah, so every every project that we work with, doesn't matter if it is 100 hectares design or implementation, or if it is a backyard for self-sufficiency, or even if it is a restoration of an ecosystem, we always try to gather as much information as we can, so we can actually put it together for the best outcome, not only for nature, but also for the person who wants to implement it. And I would possibly ask Yossi if am I missing anything there that you would say that could be important?
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I mean, what came to me as you're sharing is it's so relevant to where I'm at the moment, and where we're doing this project in New Zealand, and we've spent months, me and my partner, planning, doing all the financial calculations, doing all sorts of different designs, because we're not just focused on doing a 1 hectare syntropic food forest or syntropic system, but also to have human habitats within them, so like small tiny homes. So there's like many different factors with our system. It's, seeing how it can be financially viable for the community. So bringing some economic resource to the people who are living here, who can use the fruits and the nuts to create some type of maybe micro industry for the community, which is really exciting. And also, enough food, enough fruits and berries and nuts that the community can come and live off them. And we also envision that people will be surrounded in an ecosystem that they can then interact with. So our specific project is really focused on community, but also with some economic viability, to bring some income into the community. So it does look at different layers and different levels, and it doesn't need to be as complex as that. But I would say also that as we start implementing, as we start putting the project into practice, we have to, we see that different areas need addressing, such as the people aspect in the system and how it's going to be managed. One of the most challenging things we had was coming in to our community with our plans, and it seeming to be over daunting, the amount of management that's required when, especially people who don't have the know-how. And just putting those fears at ease, showing people how to work with this type of farming, and just beginning that process step by step, and seeing that it's not really that challenging and it's so fruitful. Yeah. So that's where we're at the moment. And yeah.
Nice. I'd like to ask you more about this project, Yossi. It sounds so good. When we keep bouncing ideas on how to create ecosystems for humans to live in, and making sure that we will have enough food, not only on the short term but also in the long term, and but taking a step forward and actually trying to generate source of income or creating micro industry. How exciting is that for, because it's a whole new way of living, it's a whole new paradigm, and there is no other module that we can just copy and paste like we have on conventional agriculture, that we can just go there, buy a package of seeds, buy some chemicals and fertilizers and put in there. We know how much it's going to come, and we're going to leave the soil really bad or worse than when we found. So the understanding that you guys are putting together, that okay, we're going to create this living space, but we want to work exactly as much as possible, at least as nature would do, to leave the place better than it was. And tell me a little bit more. I'm very curious about that.
Yeah,
I
I'd
think
love
possibly
to.
a lot of people there trying to create communities now. They would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I think, I like it. I'm so excited about this. I think one of the main fears actually that come up with people is the physical labor. They're like afraid of, oh my God, we have to do all this work and it's so daunting. And what we do here at the community is we organize like gatherings in the weekends. So we put the word out to all our friends and family, come help us. We're doing a tree planting day and we're going to learn about a new way of farming. And it was 2 weeks ago, we had 30 people here come over the weekend, and we got so much done. And just showing like how when we all come together, what can be done. And that, there are some parts of implementing.
Yeah, I think that you're cutting off a little bit.
That are labor intensive.
Yeah, you can go on. Sorry, came back now. Can you say it again? Sorry.
Once that's done, once you've implemented your system, okay, all right, that's back now. And yeah, then we can just go in and manage it and like enjoy the fruits of our labor. It's so easeful. And the other thing that was coming to me is, looking and actually breaking down the reasons or the different elements of your system. So we have, like I mentioned before, creating some economic viability, whether that's 2 or 3 good cash crops that we can sell, whether that's like chestnuts and artichokes and blueberries, and ones that can provide income in the first year, ones that can provide income in the third year, ones that can provide income in the long term. So making sure to cover all those steps. Then there is a lot of interest from the community about bringing in the native New Zealand forest habitat, which has been destroyed in our area. It's been decimated. We're actually privileged to live on a piece of land which has one of the last remaining like 3 hectares of native forest in this whole region of the Manawatu. So we're actually in islands of community with a native forest surrounded by dairy farmers and meat farmers as far as the eye can see. So we're right in the middle of it. So that the closest town to us is all hardcore, farmers working hard, providing a lot of industry. And we're actually spreading out to local community as well to bring them in to see what we're doing. And that's exciting. So
it is. And one thing that I hear a lot in these years of experience of working in different climates and different communities or different contexts, that's one thing that always comes to mind. People think, oh, that's going to be too labor intensive. But also, when we start looking at the shift of work that that happens, shift of work that happens on how much work you need to do on a weekly basis compared to how much work you need to do on a weekly basis after the system is implemented. It's actually, it kind of is the same amount of work, or sometimes even less. At the beginning, you actually happens to be more labor intensive at the beginning, but over time, the labor reduces because the trees are kind of occupying their own space in time. They are occupying their own function, and it requires less and less management. And when I try to implement system or even talk to people about planting it very dense, like the mindset of abundance, that we gotta overplant, so we always have like lots of biomass, lots of how can I say, options to harvest one thing, or maybe not even to harvest that. Like, as you said, you have blueberries, asparagus, and chestnuts. But let's say if you don't want to harvest asparagus because that's like, oh, once every 2 years, I'm not going to be here. So, or like, I'll wait 7 years and I'll guarantee that I'll do my best to manage my system to give the best life for my chestnuts, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I love this diversity, these options that we have within the system, and this mindset of abundance. And for you, the project that you're doing there, putting humans in that, can you give us a little bit of a picture how it's going to look like in terms of a system?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have houses, a village, and then a system all around it, or how? Tell us a little bit more how it's going to work.
Sure. Sorry, the power just went off and I lost my lighting as well.
It's all good. It's all good. You can still see it. You can still see it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is really cool. So, we have about 8 cabins arriving, prefabricated cabins arriving, that are all going to be self-sustainable in this 1 hectare system. And we've designed our tree lines, our tree rows around them. So the first thing we looked at was the sun path, making sure they get the maximum amount of winter and summer sun throughout the year. And then we, made sure that the trees around the cabins, that they're not going to be blocking out sun either. So we have, we have a consortium of trees. We have a consortium of trees that are lower, or trees that are easily available to prune, that we can manage. Yeah, that we don't have to let them grow super high and shade out our cabins. And then there's other ones further away that we can let them grow that high. And then something really important about what we're trying to do is, when people go and inhabit these spaces, is actually to enable them to be able to interact with the trees and the plants around them. So having like a box of tools, or electric powered whippersnippers, or electric pruners around, and enabling them and empowering them to be able to take care of the space around them.
Nice. And that's another thing that I tell people all the time. Like, why do we need to plant food? Why do I need to plant a forest? Why do we need to plant food? Why do I need to plant a forest full of food? The reason is because food is part of a forest ecosystem. All of them, doesn't matter if it is vegetables or salad, they are the early stages of the forest ecosystem. But the reason why we plant it is so interests us to go in there and interact with it and give the best management as possible, so we can actually harvest that food that we planted, that seed that we ate the fruit, and raise that seedling, planted that seedling. So you want not only you, but your friends, your family, your community to be able to taste that delicious food. And for that to happen, is we need to make sure that the whole ecosystem is well managed within your context, to give the best condition for that plants. And I love it.
I'd love to just share a link to our designs. We have a page here of designs, which everyone can look at. Just wondering, Shay, if I share it with you, we can bring it up and just scroll through that.
Yeah,
just quickly.
So. Good, and actually that would be something for us to do in the coming weeks as well. Yossi, possibly share some designs. I just did this design for this place in Australia here, west of New South Wales, called Double, where mainly we're gonna grow apples, citrus, pears, stone fruits in general. But also we're going with asparagus, and yeah, I'd love to share some of the designs. Yeah, oh, it looks beautiful, Yossi.
So we actually use the software Notion. If you just scroll down, Shay, yeah. So it's a way for people to interact, to leave comments, and then we've given like different designs for people to have different options. So we show the sun path there. That's the 1 hectare that we're working with. The native forest is on the left there. Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's a whole piece of land.
So that looks like an oasis of abundance that you guys are gonna plant in there.
And then this is just like our ideas come into our head, like just, playing around with ideas, like all these cabins, a central facility, our orchards, our Syntropic system on the sides. So that one, we looked at having them all like community-based, quite close together. And then if you go further down, we've played with other designs. Yeah, this is where you're incorporating the cabins more into the system and people having their own privacy. So yeah, and we have a whole lot more. So it's all we've been playing with different ideas. Yeah.
This reminds me of one of our partners, Murilo, from Agrosintropia. He is working in a project on land development. Oh, Yossi, that looks beautiful, man! Wow, look at that. That's beautiful, my friend. Yes, I love your creativity. So that reminds me of what Murilo is doing. There is this land developer that he was doing this project where he's gonna use this pasture, this something like but he got approval to build 500 houses, but he had to reforest some of the area. So Murilo met this guy and start talking about agroforestry. So what happened is the landscape, how can I say, the land developer, he started linking the patches of forest around the property with a syntropic system, and through the time, all this food that was harvested was given to the people who were buying the land. So imagine you went there to buy a piece of land, and you already had a box of food coming to you every week, So now they already sold out all the land space, and a lot of people are leaving to the community. They have a full-time gardener or 2 full-time gardener, and Murilo is already linked. He already linked the 2 forests on the 2 extremes of the property, and now they are developing more and more food gardens. Forest food gardens for all the people who bought the land. And so imagine every week you have a box full of fruits and food coming to your doorstep because you already paid for it. So creating agro ecosystems for people to live in, that's amazing. That's a dream. And thank you for doing that. And so we're going to talk a lot about in our workshops and how to be able to have this freedom to create. Once you know the principles, once you know your context, once you know the principles, once you know the practices, you can actually, and you know how to manage it, you can be free enough to create, to go wild and create your own system, create a whole village full of food. And that we're going to be teaching a lot of that in our mentorship program. So anything else before we go that you'd like to share about your project, or anything else that comes to your mind at the moment?
No, the only thing is that we're trying to document all the different parts and elements of what the project needs. and when it's important to accomplish certain deadlines, and especially like what we need for the next stage of the project to make sure that we cover it. So everything that we're doing, we're documenting to really try and create a bit of a prototype of this way of living. So we're excited about that.
Beautiful. Shay, would you have any more questions for now? Or I think that was like a good overview of what are the possibilities of what you can do once you know a little bit more, once you get the knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to thank you, Yossi and Thiago, for the work that you're doing. It seems, there's so much potential out there for people to really practice these guiding principles, which are it's all energy. It's all there for us to harness, to use for growing and cultivating and accumulating. So it's really positive stuff. I just want to encourage anyone who's interested to learn more again, just follow the link in the description to the Syntropic Solutions homepage. And the mentorship is something that I'm going to highly recommend to go deeper into this work. These guys have designed this course over the 6-week period to give you the most value so you can really understand and comprehend these notions. Even though it may seem quite simple, it's obviously a lot of educational information that we don't learn in schools per se. It's not part of our educational system. And so this is an opportunity for you, this is an invitation for you to go on that journey and educate yourself if you're interested in this kind of topics, and supporting your community, supporting your family and your friends by doing one of the most fundamental practices that humankind has done for millennia since our existence, and that is to grow food. And this syntropic style is a wonderful way that grows food in abundance, and that's the most awesome part about this. So thanks so much, guys, for joining me again today, and look forward to another chat soon.
Thank you very much. I'll see you guys next week live here. Thank you.